Daredevil, Born Again, Season 1. This will be a full spoiler review. I have a review up on my blog, sounderbettermyhead.com. I don't think there's really any spoilers in there. So if you want to check that out first or instead, whatever, that's cool. I ended up giving this season a 3 out of 5. I think that might have been a little bit generous. It was a decent season. It's not like a show I was looking forward to every week. I watched it. There was some good stuff in it. I really liked the Netflix show when it was on. So it's kind of grading on a little bit of a curve. It's getting a lot of goodwill from the old Netflix show. I love the actors and the versions of the characters that they play. Especially the actors that are carrying over from the previous series. So I think that kind of fudged the rating up a little bit. It was a very strange show. Originally, this was going to be 18 episodes. They were going to do 9 episodes. Take a break, do the next 9. Except for the fact that a few of the characters were returning from the Netflix series. It was not going to be a continuation of that. They were planning on ignoring it. In fact, they even recast a couple characters, at least Vanessa Fisk for sure. And it sounds a little confusing because you're going to see characters that you recognize, and then it's like, no, none of that stuff happened. We're just going to ignore it. It's like a soft reboot kind of a thing. I think they also wanted to be kind of a more episodic kind of thing. Like, it's like, okay, here's a couple episodes of this, and then a couple episodes of that, and maybe there's kind of something right in the background and some standalone episodes, because they had 18 episodes to work with. They wanted to be a little bit more like a traditional TV series. And then apparently during the writer's strike, they looked back at what they had and they realized that what they had was not working. I believe, from what I read, they had 6 episodes done. They filmed a brand new pilot episode, and they also filmed episode 7, well, would have been 7 and 8, but now it's episode 8 and 9 to wrap up the season. And then they also went back and they added some additional footage to kind of tie things tie things together a little bit better. They rehired the actress that played Kingpin's wife in the Daredevil show. So basically anytime you see her on screen, that's all brand new footage. I think they tried to get the Punisher back initially. He said no. And then when they retooled it, he did come back. So anything with him was brand new. I think anything with like Bullseye is brand new. For the most part, I think it worked. You could definitely see this especially when you kind of know what they changed and what they didn't. You could definitely see the seams. And I think even if you didn't, I think you could kind of tell something seems a little bit off. But I think for the most part, they pulled together and made a pretty cohesive project. There's not a plot per se. It's totally character driven. This is Daredevil's story. Here's Kingpin's story. We got a couple side characters that fill out the sides and middles of this story. And there's really not a plot. Like, it's not like Daredevil's trying to stop the Hand or he's trying to stop this. I mean, yeah, the Kingpin's like a bad guy and he knows he's a bad guy and he's the mayor now. But he's not really actively trying to stop him because the Kingpin's not actively trying to be, a villain for the most part. He's sort of kind of trying to be like a legit mayor, sort of. So they said there's no plot per se. As far as Daredevil's character arc, it's basically Matt decides to stop being Daredevil in the first episode, and he's trying to let the system handle things. He's trying to not do this and trying to move on with his life. Occasionally he's still using his powers, here and there, but he's really not trying to be Daredevil, and he basically doesn't become Daredevil until I think like episode 6 or 7, somewhere later in the season. And then you get Fisk, which it's not as good of an analogy because he runs for mayor. He is trying to make the city a better place, but he's not making any kind of effort to be a better person. He's not like, I'm going to, do this for real. He's still shady. He's kind of got some fish out of water stuff going on when he's trying to do the more traditional mayor stuff. But for the most part, he's still like the Kingpin. And there would have been some interesting ways to see him being the Kingpin, using that knowledge to, be a better mayor. But it's like this. It just seems so self-serving that it doesn't quite parallel Matt's story. As far as smaller plots, like they kind of did smaller arcs. You had the Trial of the White Tiger arc, which was pretty good. The actor playing White Tiger was really good. Unfortunately, that actor passed away before the show came out, so that's pretty depressing. There's slowly trying to build like Muse in the background, but when we do finally get him, everything just felt kind of rushed. It's like, okay, here's Muse, he's killing a bunch of people, but I don't know, it just never felt like he was as much of a threat as he could have been. Like, you find out, like, kind of the last minute, oh, he killed 60 people, and I don't know, this right away kind of gets to the end game. He gets blurts his whole origin out of the blue, and then he gets killed off. It's like, what? That just felt like a waste of a character. It felt like they were setting him up in the background, and there was like just quick payoff, and it was done. The stuff that they said in the first episode, especially the stuff with Bullseye and why he killed Foggy, was like just basically felt like it was just completely dropped. Like, and they didn't feel like they even tried to like weave much of that back into the season. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, in the second to last episode, it's like a super important part of the story, and it kind of rolls into the finale. And there's also this sudden jump too, where like Fisk was more or less trying to work within the lines. Like, yeah, he had some shady stuff going on. He made his anti-vigilante task force, and then all of a sudden he's just flat out blackmailing people and kidnapping people and probably killing people to get what he wants. It was this weird jump to like hardcore kingpin, master criminal as mayor, and it didn't feel like there was a good catalyst to like get him there. Where like Matt had all these moments where it was like, you can't keep sitting on the sidelines anymore. You got to get out there and be Daredevil. And I was also kind of hoping to see that, especially with the Muse storyline, you got Fisk trying to protect the city, and I think it's something he really does want to do. I think he really does want to protect the city. He still wants to take advantage of the city too, but he wants to protect it. There's a serial killer out there. He killed 60 people that they know of. And it would have been interesting to see how like a criminal stops another criminal. Instead, he just used it as an excuse to set up his anti-vigilante task force so that he could basically go after people like Daredevil and keep them off his ass. Which, like, it would have been a cool moment to see how he could have handled things, and they just didn't do anything with it. And then the finale, I knew it was going to end on more or less a cliffhanger. I mean, this was supposed to be the first half of a season one. Kind of morphed into this season one. We're going to finish it in season two. Thought Kingpin stuff was fairly strong. The bad guy wins kind of a scenario. And then Matt's Daredevil's, half setting up hope of what they're going to do next season. I thought was a little weak. It's just like a bunch of semi-random people and a couple of the odds and end characters we met throughout the season. We're all going to have to team up and stop the Kingpin. It felt a little flat. Like, it was like nobody cool step forward. Like, oh, okay, Spider-Man's going to help, or this guy's going to help. Luke Cage is going to help. It's just like, okay. Acting is always fantastic, especially the leads. The supporting characters were good, but your main actors were awesome. Especially anytime you have the main actors on the scene, that's where the show like usually would nail it. When you had Daredevil or Matt Murdock and Fisk sitting down for lunch, that was just talking. Great scene, well acted. Later on, you had Matt and Frank Castle getting into it. Another fantastic scene. Almost any scene with the Punisher. The scenes with Karen Page shows up. The few scenes with Foggy, like, it's kind of like magic when those guys are all together. And that's the stuff that hooked me in. Action wise, I didn't think most of the fight scenes were that great. Like, some of the editing was kind of weird, and there's a lot of Matt throwing his club or shooting like a grappling hook out of it, and it happened so quick it's hard to see what was happening a lot of times. There's a fight scene in the beginning. They tried to do like a one shot. They kind of faked it. There's some trickery going on, but it just didn't look real. Like, something looked off about it. I think they added a bunch of CG smoke to it for whatever reason. Maybe to cover up some of the cuts, but it just didn't. The smoke didn't look real, so it just looked like some kind of weird video game cutscene for some reason. And nothing looked. They said the way they filmed it, the way the night sky looked, everything just looked off. It didn't look real. And it's like the fight scene itself wasn't that spectacular. They also tried to have Daredevil doing some cool flips and swinging from his grappling hook outside. And 9 times out of 10, when they showed it, not that they even showed it that many times, but when they did show it, it just looks like CG. It just took you out of it. It's like, that looked like a CG character, swinging, and then he drops down. Now it's the real, actor in the costume. And again, if you're hoping to see him in the costume, it's very, very rare. It's not till later in the season. Then you do see him a few times, in action. I think it's fine. I think Matt Murdock's interesting enough without the costume, and I think because he always has those powers, he's always still being super even when he's not beating people up in costume, because he's also beating people up out of costume, and it's pretty cool. I think that's it for the general show. I got some notes I would look at here, see if there's anything else I wanted to point out. Another disappointment. For a minute, it looked like we were going to get a semi-comic accurate version of the Bullseye costume. You see his gloves, like it looks like, okay, here we go, and then he just wears like a generic like ski mask. Bullseye himself was fine. You know, he didn't have much to do in the first episode except for kill some people, and then his final appearance started to add some nuance back to his character, but it was so kind of in and out of there. It's like, okay, didn't get a chance to really do anything. I think the second episode, there's a pretty cool fight scene with Matt and some crooked cops. The one cop lands right on his neck, where it looked like everyone that I seen watch it, like that guy's dead for sure. Matt just killed somebody, and then not only was the guy apparently fine, besides some bumps and bruises, like there was almost no blowback from that scene. Like Matt and the cop just kind of like had like an awkward conversation afterwards in the bathroom the next day at court, and it's like, well, whatever. Yeah, you guys tried to kill me, and I beat you guys up even though I'm blind. Whatever. Let's just move on with it. Like it seemed like it would have been a bigger deal. Third episode, I really like this cool moment where there was this witness coming in. He was, you know, was basically going to sink the prosecution's case, and the cops were going to try to kill him, and there was a lot of tension. And they come to find out Matt did like a switcheroo, and they got him to the court in a different car. I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. And then the guy tanked the case and just, you know, didn't want to testify. Basically, he just lied. So that kind of was a little bit of a letdown, but I know that's what they were going for. And then since some really great speeches by Matt, like, you know, had me feeling like, wow, this guy's White Tigers. This is an awesome dude. And you could see the jury, you know, siding with them. The prosecutor gave a halfway decent counter argument, but Matt's was like pretty damn good. And of course, it's sad that not only did White Tiger end up getting, you know, assassinated basically, but he talked about the frogs in Puerto Rico. You know, he always thinks about it, you know, when he thinks of home, and then they played those frogs throughout the end credits. It was cool having Ms. Marvel's dad pop up. They overdid it, like he mentioned Kamala like every chance he had, just beating it home. I got a kick out of him having it was like a legit Funko Pop, and he said it was a Funko Pop, but it's cool because you could actually buy that before the show ever came out, so that was a cute little touch. The bank robbery episode was actually probably the best. It was like a standalone episode. It basically it could have taken place almost any place in the season, and it worked. Like, that's what I miss about longer seasons of shows. You could do episodes like that and have Matt as a civilian stop a bank robbery, and it doesn't have to tie to like everything else going on. So I thought that was a nice little. That was one of the most solid episodes. Like start to finish, you could have put that anywhere in the season, like I said, and people were like, "Oh, that works pretty good." It was always weird with news because he seemed like he's like picking up full-grown people and carrying them over his shoulder like it's nothing, and then he was going toe-to-toe with Matt with, you know, martial arts fighting, which seemed kind of odd. Like, is he superhuman? What's going on? And they did get to his origin. At least, you know, he had a martial arts background, and they kind of glossed over a lot of stuff with him. Like, okay, you know, he had a rich upbringing. They had a martial arts instructor living with them. Everyone pretty much knew he killed the guy, but it was never explained like how he got away with it. They just said, yeah, and then the guy died, and you know, never got looked into. Like, yeah, that sounds like the family had money, but I wish we would have more explanation of how they covered that up or what happened with it. And then Muse is from what I know in the book is he thinks he's making art. Like he thinks he's actually improving these people's lives by killing them and using them in his artwork. And I was really hoping to have him give some version of that story in the show when he talked about why he does it, and he didn't. There's no reason why he did what he did. It's all just kind of imply like, oh, people always ignored me, and now when I do this, you know, people pay attention. So I thought that was nothing that really like crushed his like storyline from being like, oh, this is pretty cool. So, well, that was a waste of time. It's also kind of weak that they introduced him early on, like blink and you miss it, like seeing him as a civilian, and then all of a sudden he pops out at the end where apparently he's been seeing this psychiatrist this whole time, you know, Matt's girlfriend. But I wish we would have more scenes of them together, kind of building on it, so like you get to know him as a character, but don't raise suspicions just yet, so that it's a surprise when you find like, oh my god, this guy's the serial killer. And I thought the reason that Bullseye was hired to even kill Foggy and his client was a little bit flimsy. Like it sort of made sense, but it's like it almost seems like with the client dead, you almost didn't have to take Foggy out too. Like I don't. like, yeah, he's going to file this motion, but with his client dead, it seems like he wouldn't have had a reason to file this motion anymore, so it just would have got dropped. So it's kind of weird that, because what if he told other people what he was going to do? Like, would they have to kill every lawyer that knew his plan, like everyone that knew how he was going to get out of this case? Like, it was a little flimsy, and it's like I said, after taking so many episodes not to get back to it after the first episode was kind of weird. And then the final episode was shockingly brutal, like even more brutal than some of the other Daredevil seasons. And this is a Disney Plus show. Just Frank stabbing people left and right, a lot of blood, but the biggest one is Fisk like literally like crushing a man's head. Like, that was pretty out there for Daredevil. Like I said, even the Netflix stuff, let alone the Disney Plus. And again, I don't know why he kept all these people like hostage, especially the Punisher. Like, seeing like Punisher is someone who should have died, killed off immediately, unless they thought he'd have some kind of use down the road, but I don't know what. But anyways, I think that's about it. I don't want to go on for too long about this show. Like I said, overall, it was fine. Like I said, the acting and the characters that I like from the Netflix show, I think really helped me like it more than I could have. It was like a brand new first season. It was like a new show. I said, just kind of sucked. It was like no really compelling overall plot, and I thought that the Matt and Kingpin stuff was fine, and I thought they mirrored each other fairly well, but it could have been a little bit better. The action wasn't as so much of a standout as it was in the Netflix show. But some of the CG that tried to enhance some of the stuff was like noticeable. But I think that's about it. Like I said, I have the non-spoiler version of this review up. I have other movie reviews, TV show reviews, a couple video game reviews, my comic strips, and that's all at soundedbettermyhead.com. So if you want to check any of that out, that's awesome. Other than that, thanks for watching.